Hi everybody, Puffin here. I've made a couple angry videos earlier this morning and I just stepped out in the -4 degree temperature and smoked a bowl and feel much better. And I want to talk about timelines. My angry videos earlier are part of a timeline of anger and violence and negativity. I jumped back into that timeline yesterday. There was a brief timeline of positivity and hope and transition when I got out of the bath, was thinking about making these videos, ended up watching some of the impeachment because they had breaking news that they were voting to maybe call witnesses. Now, let's just discuss the timeline of calling witnesses that we seemed to be on yesterday and then avoided, so I'm a little disappointed about. If you call the witnesses, it can drag on for a while, for one thing. It brings out a lot of information, publicly viewed information, and information that these senators have to listen to some extent. Will be judged for being responsible for having heard and then voting a certain way. As it is, they called the vote instead of having the witnesses so they could vote without having that accountability. Say, well, we didn't know it was like that. We never heard that part, so that's when we voted. That's all they were trying to do. Here's the thing. They tried to impeach Trump before. They had stronger cases against him. There's definitely many things they could have impeached him for, and they weren't going for it enough, which was a big mistake. Or wrong. It was wrong. Wrong to do that. Here's the thing about timelines and fate. We have this kind of comic book idea about changing timelines, about changing the order of events, changing history by being able to go back in time, or being able to choose a different timeline. Here's a juncture where we're going to enter one timeline or another. And I even used the terms different timelines earlier in this video, kind of just so you can relate to it, because time is more, what's the word? Time is more intricate than we tend to understand. Time is more involved. There are different dimensions of time, just like there's different dimensions of space. We understand one linear dimension of time. I'll have to make a video specifically about time and space, but as it applies to this situation, for instance, some examples, because my videos yesterday and today had something to do with the Star Wars universe, a different timeline, but a long time ago, galaxy far away. And they fired the actress who played Cara Dune for supporting Trump, or for being a Nazi. I want to refine that just enough in case you don't watch whatever other videos I've made about what makes these people Nazis. It's like in her particular post that she got fired for, she's saying, this, like, deplatforming Trump or other things like this are, Nazi type things, like censorship Nazi type things, or she's comparing it to people turning on people in their own communities. The real problem with people using Nazi comparisons, there's a very good use of Nazi comparisons. It's very advantageous and apropos and important to use Nazi comparisons to compare Trump to Nazis, okay? Just because he is, okay? And again, another video for that if you don't already understand it. Lots of other videos for that. I mean, you're going to need lots of other videos if you don't understand that at this point. But for those who already understand it, let's move along. Trump is a Nazi. There's a very well-established Nazi tactic to blame others for what you do. Do bad things and blame others for it. That's what they're doing. They're just living up to that Nazi playbook. Now, part of that Nazi playbook, applying that same principle, is to say that we're the ones who do things and blame others for what we do. The whole Antifa really raided the Capitol, all this crap. Or now, their official version, that the reason these Trumpers raided the Capitol is because they were inspired by Antifa or something, whatever, or thought this is the way to go about doing things. Not Trump told them to do it, and they worked a whole program heavily aided by Putin and troll factories and KGB to do this. Like, this stuff is going to come out, because this is where we're going to get into timelines. In the future, all that stuff comes out. These people look as bad to everybody as they look as bad to those of us with sight, as they look bad now. We, plenty of us see how bad they are now. We call them Nazis because they are. In the future, everyone will call them Nazis. They'll call them Trump Nazis or whatever. They'll have their particular distinction, but everyone will know what they are. That's just the progression of the timeline, okay? You could alter the timeline. If we had altered course, if you change what you do, then the future changes. So, let's take it back. If they had impeached Trump and succeeded in that impeachment, he could not have done what he did at the Capitol. You would have been doing him a favor to impeach him the first time, Republican senators. You would have been doing yourself a favor. The second time, you would have done yourself a favor to go ahead and throw the book at him, make sure he's not coming back so you don't have to worry about any of that, but also to show that you have responsibility to the country and to values instead of only to the ghost of Hitler. Because that's what it is. You're keeping Nazism and fascism alive in America and in the world far beyond its due date. I mean, we never should have had it in the first place. Again, talk about going back in timelines. What would people do if they could go back in timelines? They'd stop some of these terrible things from happening. Well, a terrible thing has been happening, and we didn't do nearly enough to stop it. So it happened. And they're trying to continue it. And they're succeeding at continuing. Now, I get mad that we didn't stop it. I get mad that when we have another opportunity to stop it, we don't stop it. I get mad that we don't make a statement. But you know why I'm mad? Because I'm dealing with these maddening Nazis. It's supposed to make you mad when people are that bad. Being mad is the appropriate response. I don't want them to be there. I don't want them to have any influence. I don't want to be making any compromises with them. I don't want to be, talking about these ideals. I don't want to be using the fact that these ideals are controversial enough to gin up hits, to write the news this way. We don't need to hear both sides of an argument with Nazis. We've heard that argument, and we had to solve it before with violence. Or we didn't have to, maybe, but that's the path we chose. Now, can we solve it this time without violence? Because that's all we know. That's all we know how to deal with this severe of a thing. And I'm against violence. I want to move into the timeline, into the part of the timeline that there is no more violence. So this is how timelines work. You get to a point and there's no more violence. Or you don't get to that point because the violence stops you. And this is very basic for lots of different things. So, we could have voted better yesterday. We could have, as people, maybe put more pressure on our senators. Maybe I could have been saying more. I mean, I'm practically deplatformed myself from all the censorship of social media. My stuff is not seen. I'm shadow banned in a lot of cases. And I'm not whining about being shadow banned like these right-wing people do who are obviously not shadow banned. I actually am. And I'll tell you the difference sometime. It's very different. But anyway, point being that there is a good timeline. There is a good future from which we can look back, and the bad that's bad, that plenty of people see as bad, but lots of people don't, everybody will see it as bad. Because in the future, things will be so good, we have a reference. But we have to get to that good future by getting rid of bad stuff. And it does, that's why I'm frustrated, that's why I'm mad, because I'm like, hey, I see the future. I see it right around the corner. It's the same thing I read Jesus saying in the Bible. And he said it 2,000 years ago. Jerusalem, we've been trying to make you, I can see what we could have here. We've been trying this. The prophets have been trying this for years, for centuries. And you keep stopping us. So it's not just people with vision today and people with vision 50 years ago, like Martin Luther King or somebody, or people with vision 2,000 years ago, like Jesus. It was before Jesus. People have had vision. People have had this vision, no matter how far the future is. People have had this vision of it. And they see the obvious, once you can see it, you can see the obvious stumbling blocks to it. Now we're kind of at a point where all of America can see it. Most of us do see it. And we've got the same obstacles in the way. The same corporate greed, oppression, pollution, just Trump, fascism. It's still the same thing in the way. It's been consolidated We have all the names of all the. There's even 7 Republican senators who weren't so corrupted by fascism to vote for that. That's good, you know? Like, I was so angry this morning and was reminded, you know, what about things you like? I like the future. I like life. I like getting to the future. I like seeing some of the future already starting to emerge. And we're starting to see some of it. But like, I was frustrated by this glimpse of the timeline where we get to talk about all these things and point out how bad all of it is and pick off one senator after another, turn them around until 100 votes to impeach Trump. You know, that's ambitious, whatever. But I believe in things like that. And I believe that even though we didn't get that yesterday, we'll get that. That's the way history will look on it. History will look on these 43 either with pity, with scorn, with embarrassment. You know, just like people hopefully still feel guilty for what they did in Germany. You know, it's a national shame. And we have a greater national shame in America because we should have known better. And we had plenty of people trying to tell people we knew better, but the system was too powerful. The trolls and the evil was too powerful for us to succeed openly and fully now. But the problem is what they feel like is a success. Trump celebrating getting away, just like celebrating the first time. It's not a success. They're left out there to show how bad they are. And that's the ultimate test of time and judgment of time. That in the eyes of history, and there, you know, I saw the impeachment manager Raskin telling the senators yesterday, this is how this is what you will be judged for, no matter what else you do. History will always judge you primarily for this. Meaning, if you vote to impeach, which is what the Constitution demands, what decency demands, what not being evil demands, what goodness demands. If you vote to impeach, then you know you're legitimate, and everything else you do, you can do other things and be known for those things. If you vote not to impeach, you might do some good things, but nobody cares because it's more important that you took the Nazi vote. You might do other bad things, and that'll all be highlighted by the fact, hey, look at what these Nazis do. So, in the end, the best thing is to get them on record for it, which is why I wanted to impeach him every day of his presidency. Get him on record all the time, saying, we agree with this, we agree with this, we agree with this. Because the shame's got to come from somewhere, but you might as well, you know, I thought it was, you might as well have the record. I was going to bring up another topic about how it all went down, how Lindsey Graham changed his vote. It's just, or how they're now going to try to throw Mitt Romney under the bus for, having things to criticize, or even throw, what's his name, Mitch McConnell under the bus for having to criticize Trump, because that made the news, that he criticized Trump after voting to acquit him. So anyway, all this stuff will come out.